Good morning, everybody. Welcome back, Corey Hughes' Bloody History. So we spent a little bit of time on Otto Skorzeny. We spent a little bit of time on Reinhard Gehlen. And if you're interested in more information on Reinhard Gehlen and the Gehlen organization, I highly advise that you tune into my Substack, which is bloodyhistory.substack.com, which focuses on World War II, Hitler, Holocaust, all that good, juicy stuff that no one wants to touch. So, but I've been spending a couple days here on Jack Ruby. We've got literally more pages of Jack Ruby documents to get through than we'll ever be able to get through. And so the only good place to start is at the beginning. And so we're 85 pages into this 4,723 page file. Now, obviously, we're not going to steamroll through this. This will take years to get through. But we're going to spend some time on it because we need to. Because I have a feeling that amongst these 15 or 16,000 pages of Jack Ruby files that we have, there's some nuggets of juicy stuff in there. Like in the first 100 pages, we've already got the statements of the guy who saw Jack Ruby down in Houston on the 23rd, right? Which totally smashes the official narrative. Because Jack Ruby was supposed to be in Dallas all weekend, but he wasn't. Samuel Ruby was in Dallas. Jack Ruby went to Galveston. And on the 23rd, he seems to have stopped at a store and bought. The witness thinks he bought a gun, but I don't know. There's it just tells me there's a lot more information on that I need to dig into on the gun that Jack Ruby used. So one thing I need to point out is that a lot of this research, things on like the gun itself and like the serial number and its history and where he got it and all this has really been done before. Like it's been tracked before. But here's the fucking problem. And I'm going to comment on this real quick before we get started. Hey, morning, Jim. The problem is that like I'm seeing large quantities of totally valid Kennedy research from yesterday. I'll call it the previous era of Kennedy research. That's there, but has kind of just it's sitting in a cul-de-sac, right? It's not going anywhere. It's in a dead end, and this stuff needs to be rehashed and re-brought to the surface and introduced to an entirely new audience because the existing JFK research community is the biggest bunch of fucking jerk-offs that's ever existed in the history of mankind. Okay? And it doesn't even matter if the JFK research community could like straight up fucking come up with goddamn Jack Valenti's everything fucking that he did that fucking day and it would go into the trash bin of history. Because nobody buys anything that they're selling anymore. There's not a single person connected to that JFK research community that anybody has any confidence in. Their work is dog shit, and nobody should have any confidence in it. And so it doesn't matter what they can. They could solve the whole fucking thing today and be like, hey, this is the answer. And people are going to look at them like their fucking hair's on fire because it's ridiculous at this point. And they've been getting high on their own supply for so fucking long that they don't even have a fucking clue what time it is. If you want excellent evidence that the JFK research community has no idea what time it is, listen to the Lone Gunman podcast hosted by Rob Clark. Like him and his, I don't know his co-host, so I'm not going to comment on him, but Rob is the most fucking unbelievable person in the research community, if you even want to call him that at all. That fucking guy has never solved a fucking thing in 10 years, and they just came out with their 300th episode of their podcast. It's fucking pathetic. I've been doing this show for a little over a fucking year, and I got 160 something episodes. So that is the epitome of the state of the JFK research community. But what I was saying was some of the information that has been dug up over the years is really good. Like all the information on the gun that Jack Ruby used to kill Oswald is out there. It just needs to be, it needs to have new eyes set upon it. That's basically it. But let's get started with these Jack Ruby documents. All right. So Jack Leon Ruby, this is the subject matter, a.k.a. And Lee Harvey Oswald victim deceased civil rights, Dallas. Hoodlum Connections suspect Jack Brumett, Brumett. Denver, this is a big sentence redacted here. Denver, Colorado advised S.A. Richard L. Campbell November 27 instant that Brumett originally comes from Houston, Texas, is a burglar and may possibly have connections with Jack Ruby of Dallas, Texas. Brumett, friend of Mrs. E.L. Schaefer, 6327 Riverview Way, Houston. Schaefer resided Riders Manor, a motel in Denver, from November 6 last to November 19 last. Redacted advised, redacted Schaefer, redacted airport in Denver on November 19 last, where she boarded Braniff airplane destined to Dallas and then Houston. Redacted, decent length redaction. Schaefer made statement Kennedy would never be elected again. Redacted advised this statement may have been entirely innocent. However, in his opinion, might have some significance in connection with assassination of President Kennedy. Redacted advised Schaefer made numerous long-distance telephone calls to Texas during her stay at the Riders Manor. Redacted unable to furnish additional information. Redacted Des Clark, Riders Manor, Denver, advised November 27 instant that Mrs. Schaefer made long-distance calls to Houston, the following numbers. November 8 last, and there's a whole bunch of numbers here I'm not going to go over, but I should, can I screenshot? Yeah, I should screenshot this, just because these phone numbers could be important. I mean, that's how I identified the Gateway Swim and Skate in reference to David Ferry's alleged trip to Houston and Galveston. I just Googled the fucking number, and guess what came up? An answer that should have come up fucking a long time ago. Houston immediately interviewed Mrs. E.L. Schaefer to determine what she meant by above-quoted statement attributed to her. Determine if she is acquainted with Ruby or Oswald, or if Brumett is acquainted with either of them. Reed Dallas tell to Denver November 26 last. Tony Angel, true name Mary H. Morgan, identical with Mary Morgan, a.k.a. Tawny Angel, who was interviewed, sounds like a stripper, who was interviewed November 25 last, and results furnished Dallas by Tell number 26 last. Minneapolis Tell to Bureau in Dallas undated. You see, that's where gems come into these fucking things, right? You have like one little sentence here in a document 4,700 pages long, and right, one of these fucking names will connect to something, right? Like, that's how you paint the picture. You have to go through every fucking name, and double check and triple check, and then take it from there. Marjorie Rice, Denver PD, and redacted Retail Credit Men's Association, Denver, both advised now, November 27 instant, they could locate no record, Harold Jerome Mandery, Mandery. See, where does his name come from? This is out of the blue, right? R.G. Woods, Secretary Treasurer, Colorado Sheriffs and Police Officers Association, Englewood, Colorado, advised November 27 instant that Colorado law was a former publication of this association, which has not been published for the past 3 years. Woods has no recollection of Mandery. Minneapolis advised airmail. All right, so they're putting out feelers for names. Why? We don't know, do we? A lot of times what'll happen is I'll go through a document and I'll come across a little miscellaneous reference like this, and then, 6 months later, I'll come across a name, a second reference to a name that was just a passing reference. And by digging into those passing references, you sometimes stumble across things. Very time-consuming. All right, so New York Tel Bureau, SAC, Dallas, and LA, dated October 27, concerning telephone calls from Jack Ruby. On August 4, 63 to Los Angeles, area code 274-0043. This number listed to Michael Shore, 109 North Alamont Drive, LA. Shore interviewed this date and advised he never met Ruby personally, but knew his brother Earl Ruby in Chicago. Jack Ruby telephoned Shore a number of times during last year and a half in connection with Shore's being in show business. Only other individuals known mutually by Shore and Ruby were well-known bail bondsman Erwin S. Wiener, a.k.a. Struck End of Chicago, of Irving Mazzei, Mazzei, president of American Guild of Variety Artists. We got to dig into that one. American Guild of Variety Artists. It's obviously a mob front. In New York, Jack Ruby may have contacted Mazzei recently in connection with problems Ruby had with AGVA when he had amateur talent at his club. Chicago and New York handle interviews with Weiner and Mazzei, respectively, for any pertinent information concerning Ruby. Of course, they're not going to know anything, right? Jack Leon Ruby, a.k.a. Jack Rubenstein, Lee Harvey Oswald, a.k.a. Alec J. Heidel, O.H. Lee, victim, deceased, civil rights. Remytel, November 25, last. Hoodlum connections. For Info Chicago, redacted Washington correspondent for Dallas Morning News advised WFO agents November 25 last he had heard what he considered to be a wild rumor to the effect that a payoff was made to Oswald Ruby in Chicago 2 weeks before assassination of President Kennedy. On November 22 last, redacted said rumor or information supposedly stemmed from an informant in Chicago who reportedly told the federal and police reporter for the Chicago Daily News about it. I mean, we don't really have any substantiation to this. It would be nice to find some substantiation for this. But this 2 weeks before the assassination thing, this kind of strikes me as kind of coinciding with the time that Gary Ween saw Jack Valenti and Joseph Mankiewicz and a bunch of those guys over at Nudi's Western Wear in Hollywood 2 weeks before the assassination. So maybe there were some funds distributed about that time. It's quite possible. All right. On November 27 instant, advised that he had heard when it says instant, it means this year, basically this year, or right here, depending on the context. You'll see that term instant in reference to timing and as far as places and stuff like that goes. So November 27 instant redacted advised that he had heard the rumor from Mike Quinn, who works on City Desk of Dallas Morning News and who was in Dallas on November 22 last, but who came to Washington Saturday night and mentioned the rumor to Redacted on Sunday, November 24 last. Redacted, who covers Justice Department as part of assignment as correspondent, advised Herbert Miller, assistant AG in charge of criminal division, DJ, and Jack Rosenthal, DJ of Rumor, on Sunday afternoon. Redacted also talked to city editor of his paper in Dallas by phone, who told him they were trying to run down a rumor which he believed came from a Chicago Daily newsman who was at Dallas Morning News office, that there had been a payoff in Chicago on the assassination. Redacted said he had no information as to amount of this rumored payoff, who supposedly made it or who received it. Redacted said he had assumed the supposed payoff would have been made to Oswald or Ruby, but on reflection he thinks the rumor would have referred to Oswald at the time, as Ruby was not publicly connected with the assassination until midday on Sunday. Redacted said he had no factual information whatsoever in connection with this rumor, stated he would advise FBI if any factual information should come to his attention. On November 27 instant, Robert Baskin, chief of Dallas Morning News Bureau, Washington, D.C., mentioned that he had observed something which might or might not have any significance. Saturday, November 23rd edition, Dallas Morning News, which came out at 8 p.m. Friday, November 22 last, on page 19 of Section 1, carried advertisements of Carousel and Vegas clubs stating closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I don't know about that. That needs to be researched. I think there might be some misinformation here, but we shall see. The idea that Ruby would have put out an advertisement that said he was closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but wouldn't have made any sense. Baskin wondered about the closed notices having been so quickly placed and mentioned of Friday in the advertisements, but stated Ruby might have placed the ad sometime Friday afternoon. No, I don't know about that. Baskin thought the ad pages he might have been matted early as 5 to 6 p.m. on Friday. Exact time advertisements placed with paper would have had to be ascertained, if possible, from office in Dallas. Baskin noted that Carousel and Vegas clubs were only such establishments that carried closed notices. Redacted, who appeared completely cooperative, stated he would not want to cause any recriminations against newsmen whose name he mentioned or to whom he referred, who were doing their job in running down news leads. Accordingly, in any interviews conducted in connection with information furnished by Redacted and Baskin, request that no mention be made of redacted names or positions of newsmen. Details of interviews conducted by WFO, it's a Washington field office, being furnished Dallas and Chicago by Airtel. Chicago contacted federal and police reporter of Chicago Daily News to ascertain source of rumor or information according to which payoff allegedly made to Oswald and or Ruby in Chicago in connection with assassination of President Kennedy. For info, Chicago, this investigation based on info furnished to Washington field office by Bureau November 25 last, according to which DJ, Department of Justice official, requested interview of Redacted to ascertain if he had any info re Oswald or Ruby having been in Chicago. Well, obviously Oswald wasn't in Chicago. You can eliminate Oswald from ever having done anything, period. Recently, and picked up a bundle of money from Paul or Alan Dorfman. Chicago has files on Dorfman. Dallas ascertain exact time by whom advertisements re Carousel and Vegas Club being closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were placed with the Dallas Morning News pending. All right, so I have it on good authority that the evening of the assassination on the 22nd, they threw a party in Dallas and that everyone was there. And that's all I seem to know about it. So if anybody wants to go digging into that, please feel free. All right, next one. Administrative Frank Leyva, L-E-Y-V-A, Special Agent in Charge, Secret Service, San Juan, Puerto Rico, furnished the following information to Special Agent Royal L. Blassingame on November 26, 1963. He received information from an unidentified person at the office of the Puerto Rico Telephone Company, San Juan, Puerto Rico, that an operator had placed a call to Dallas, Texas on November 24th, 1963, and had listened to part of the conversation. Call placed person to person at 6:50 p.m. to Butch Ullhorn. Looks like UHLHORN, perhaps. Phone number, blah, blah, blah. But party not there, and returned call at 7:15 p.m., lasting 11 minutes. It says here, William Vernon Ullhorn, written in the margin. Call made from San Juan, number 791-6061. Operator handling call heard parts of conversation as follows. Person at Dallas asked San Juan person if he had heard what had happened, to which San Juan person responded that he had heard on the radio. Part of conversation not heard for a short while. Then operator heard Dallas person remark that Oswald had been killed, and then discuss in general terms of death of president, and that visit of President Kennedy to Dallas had been known 3 months ago. Sometime during the conversation, operator heard Dallas man remark, in apparent reference to victim, that he had seen him the Thursday before, November 21st, to which San Juan person told him not to say anything. It might cause him trouble. A woman then joined San Juan person on the line who was referred to by Dallas person as mother. And she said something about the boys, and they would visit the boys, and Dallas person said, if everything worked out, I'll be there next week. The Dallas person appeared to be nervous in his speech, and somewhere during the conversation, the Dallas person told the San Juan person that the shooting had been planned for about a week. Leyva advised that records of the Puerto Rico telephone company San Juan disclosed that phone number 791-6061 is listed to Arturo Rivera Brenes, B-R-E-N-E-S, kilometer .6, Isla Verde Road, Isla Verde, Puerto Rico. However, a pretext call to this number by Leyva elicited from an unidentified maid that the house was rented by Mr. and Mrs. William B. Ullhorn. Details associates at San Juan, Puerto Rico on November 26, 63. Secret Service Special Agent in Charge Frank Leyva and S.A. Royal L. Blassingame attempted to contact the residents at the house located at kilometer .6, Isla Verde Road, Isla Verde, Puerto Rico, at which time it was determined that no one was home, and the house was observed from 7 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., and no one observed to approach or enter the house. A pickup truck was observed parked in the driveway with the sign on the door, Ullhorn International, S.A., on November 27, 1963. Miss Ramona Stokes, office manager, Ullhorn International, SA 1519 Ponce de Leon Avenue in Santurce, Puerto Rico, advised Secret Service Special Agent in Charge Frank Leva and S.A. Royal L. Blassingame that William B. Elhorn is president of this company, whose headquarters are in Panama City, Panama, with a branch office in Balboa Canal Zone, Panama. He left Puerto Rico via Eastern Airlines to Miami, Florida at 5:05 p.m. November 26, 63, en route to Balboa and Panama City on company business. Exact date of return unknown, but sometime next week. The company has the construction contract for the Navy radio station located at Sabana Seca, Puerto Rico. Elhorn is originally from Memphis, Tennessee, and after World War II settled in Harlingen, Texas, where he also operates the Elhorn Construction Company. His son, William Vernon Elhorn, also known as Butch Elhorn, is a student at Southern Methodist University, Dallas. Elhorn is age 42, and his wife Sheila also left Puerto Rico November 26, 63 for New York City to visit relatives in New York. New Jersey, sorry. Names and address unknown. On November 27, 63, Gustavo Morena, service manager, Dun & Bradstreet, 609 Condado Avenue in Puerto Rico, advised S.A. Royal Blassingame that their records disclosed that the Elhorn International S.A. was incorporated under the laws of Panama, and the president is William B. Elhorn, who also operates the Elhorn Construction Company, Harlingen, Texas. The Puerto Rico branch of this company was opened in September 1962, and only other information was that the company was engaged in the construction of the radio station facilities at the Navy site at Sabana Seca, Puerto Rico. On November 27, 63, Louis Phoebus Identification Division, Police of Puerto Rico, Hato Rey, Puerto Rico, advised I.C. Dorsey Andres Howard their records containing nothing identifiable with William B. and Sheila Elhorn, Rosario Davila Retail Credit Company, Hato Rey, Puerto Rico. On the same date, furnished I.C. Howard information in their records pertaining to William B. Elhorn, which contains no other pertinent information that contained in the records of Dun & Bradstreet. Leeds, Dallas office at Dallas, Texas, will locate and interview William Vernon Elhorn, a.k.a. Butch, student at SMU, for details of conversation overheard by San Juan telephone operator November 24th last, protecting source. San Juan office at Isla Verde, Puerto Rico, will interview William B. Elhorn upon his return from Panama regarding telephone conversation to his son November 24 last. All right. Moving on to the next one. Rebutel, November 26 last, requesting New Orleans pinpoint time Ruby in New Orleans, making inquiries concerning strippers, unquote. Bureau note interview with Paul Cascio, manager of Blue Angel Club in New Orleans. Telephone number, New Orleans telephone, November 26th last at 4:38 a.m. Interview with Cleve Dugas, 500 Club in New Orleans. Telephone number, telephone of November 26th at 3:15 a.m. An interview with Leon Kornman, Cornman, American Guild of Variety Artists in New Orleans. Tel of November 27, 63 at 12:39 a.m. For further information of Bureau, it was determined that Jeanette Conforto, personally known professionally as Jada, employed as dancer at Show Bar Club at New Orleans from April 5, 63 till June 12, 63. Nick Graffanini, former night manager at Show Bar, advised this date Jack Ruby was in Show Bar a few days before Jeanette Conforto completed her engagement. Hazel Kemp, cashier at Show Bar, identified Ruby's photograph as person she saw sitting at bar in Show Bar about 5 days before Conforto completed her engagement at Show Bar. Joe Howard, master of ceremonies, Show Bar Club, advised he saw Jack Ruby talking to Graffanini about 1 week before Conforto completed engagement. Details of investigation conducted today will be included in tonight's summary teletype. Next one, 11/27/63 to director in SAC Dallas and Chicago from SAC Philadelphia. Reference Jack Ruby, Oswald, and the like. For Info Chicago, S.A. Daniel Adario, Federal Bureau of Narcotics, Philadelphia today, advised S.A. Robert L. Tagg, Newark, he had received info from confidential informant that Fun Cohen, a.k.a. Pigface, operator of used car lots, 40th and Chestnut, and 41st and Sanson, Philadelphia, PA, brother of Ray Cohen, former official Teamsters Union, Philadelphia, had told Adario, informant, that he was very friendly with Jack Leon Ruby and knows Ruby from Chicago. Cohen advised informant Ruby tied up with rackets in Chicago. Investigation Philadelphia disclosed Luke Cohen, brother of Ray Cohen, former president, Local 107 Teamster Union, Philadelphia, works for Samson Auto Sales, 4100 Sampson Street, Philadelphia. Edward Bornstein, proprietor, Samson Auto Sales, advised Luke Cohen is en route Chicago, ill with his wife and plans to visit his wife's sister. Bornstein, unable to furnish any additional information, referenced the identity of Cohen's sister-in-law or how Cohen can be reached at Chicago. Cohen expected to return Philadelphia December 3 next. Bornstein may receive phone call from Luke Cohen November 2-9 next and will attempt to determine Cohen's whereabouts in Chicago at that time. Bornstein was not advised reason for inquiry re Luke Cohen other than it did not concern auto business and did not concern info within personal knowledge of Cohen. Redacted's attempting to obtain re-info identity of Luke Cohen's sister-in-law. Chicago, if possible, to locate Luke Cohen through sources there, locate and interview. Philadelphia will immediately furnish any info developed re Luke Cohen's whereabouts, and if not previously located, will interview on his return to Philadelphia. Chicago conceal original source info. Luke Cohen formerly was connected with the trucking industry, doing contract trucking for Philadelphia Brewery. All right. Next one. Reference Acquaintances, Ruby and Oswald. The following interview was conducted at Las Vegas, Nevada, November 26th last by SAS Francis Schmidt and Joseph Murray. Robert Donald Lawrence, 237 Lana Street, Apartment 1A, advised he has not seen Ruby since he departed Dallas, Texas, approximately 6 or 7 years ago. He was acquainted with Ruby in Dallas when the latter owned and operated the Vegas club in that city. Also recalls Ruby at one time was the owner of the professional club in Dallas. Lawrence stated he knew Ruby well and described him as a, quote, hothead with a short fuse. He further stated he has no information that Ruby's been to Las Vegas area recently and added that he's never seen Ruby in Las Vegas, Nevada. Lawrence stated Ruby at one time operated a beer and wine establishment in Dallas and that Ruby was always friendly with the police in Dallas. He mentioned that Ruby was a very excitable person and used to become heated in the midst of poker games when things did not go his way. Ruby, according to Lawrence, also spoke like a high-pressure salesman when in conversation with others. Lawrence stated that he knew the following persons were friends and associates of Ruby in the Dallas, Texas area. Johnny Ross, liquor store owner, quote, Chicken Louie, unquote, a well-known hood who is now deceased. R.D. Matthews, a strongman. Charlie Tisch, presently in Las Vegas, Nevada. Ube and Barney Weinstein brothers, who operated the Colonial Club and Theater Lounge in Dallas, Texas. Lawrence advised that he had never heard of Lee Harvey Oswald until his name appeared in the newspapers. Charles Tisch, 231 Lana Street, Apartment 2A, Las Vegas, Nevada, advised that he had resided and worked in Dallas, Texas. From 1948 to 1961, and while in Dallas, he managed the bar at the Adolphus Club, along with other jobs in the restaurant and nightclub field. He stated that Ruby operated the old Silver Spur Club in Dallas in 1944-45 and that he was well acquainted with Ruby at that time. He stated he last saw Ruby 2.5 years ago in Dallas at the Gaslight or Carousel Club operated by Ruby at that time. He mentioned that Ruby at this time had 3 belly dancers employed at one of these clubs. He recalls that Ruby was usually on a health kick and frequented YMCA where he worked out. Ruby had a reputation as a, quote, tough guy. He also advised that Ruby was prone to dropping the names of police officers as acquaintances during conversations. He believed Ruby acted in this manner in an effort to impress his listeners, and Tisch was of the opinion that Ruby constantly wanted to be noticed by others. As a result, he felt that Ruby believed he could make the greatest impression on people by killing such a well-known person as Oswald. He said that Ruby never showed any interest in politics. Tisch further stated that Oswald was unknown to him. Tisch has no information that Ruby's been seen in Las Vegas, Nevada since Tisch, has been there. It is his opinion that Ruby had visited Las Vegas. He would certainly have contacted him. Tisch stated that Ruby at one time was a close associate of Ralph Paul and Chris Simos in the Dallas area. He also stated that Ruby was a good friend of a former showgirl at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas. Tisch gave her name as either Lee Sharon or Sharon Lee and said she at one time worked for Ruby in the Dallas, Texas area. John Johnson, Tropicana Hotel, Las Vegas, Nevada, advised S.A. Alan W. Hansen on November 27 instant that Sharon Lee has in the past worked in this hotel as a showgirl. Hotel records reveal Sharon Lee about 2 years ago returned to Dallas, Texas. Sharon Lee is a stage name, but her true name is Sharon Lee Wilson. Las Vegas efforts continuing this matter. All right, next one. Re-telephone call from Dallas to Chicago, November 27 last. Mental and health background. Florence Goldberg, secretary to Superintendent Chicago State Hospital during 6500 West Irving Park, advised S.A. Edward J. Neefsey on November 27, 1963, that a check of the records office reflected no record of treatment for Fanny Rubenstein knee Turek. Dr. Hyman Rubenstein, pediatrician, 2335 West Devon, advised S.A. Neefsey on November 27, 1963, that he is first cousin of Jack Ruby, and his father and Jack Ruby were brothers. Stated that he was close to Jack Ruby's family when he first came to this country from Poland in 1912 at the age of 12. States closest to Jack Ruby's older brother, Hyman Rubenstein, declared that he never treated Jack Ruby's mother, as he had never received his degree in medicine by the time she died. Declared he recalled Jack Ruby's mother as running an irregular household. He said she appeared to be a rather disturbed person of poor personal appearance with no incentive for cleaning or cooking. He recalled her goiter condition and believed she was operated on for this condition, but cannot recall by whom. He stated that the two families grew further apart, and he has maintained contact only with Hyman Rubenstein. He stated he has not seen Jack Ruby for 15 or 18 years, but heard from Hyman or Eva that Jack was in Dallas, Texas, operating a tavern. He said he got the impression that over the years, Jack Ruby was not a very fixed person, as he seemed to deal in many things rather than have a single occupation. He said he always considered that there was something in the nature of an instability running through Jack Ruby's family, that he evidenced signs of it in Hyman, who he considered undependable, and in Eva, who had a spell approaching breakdown on several occasions. He could not recall even attending the funeral of Fanny Rubenstein, which indicated how far the families had drifted apart. All right, next one. Reference calls to the Washington field office, 1127 last. On 1128 instant, Paul Egley, EGLI, head of Crystal Branch Naval Research Lab, Washington, D.C., advised S.A. Richard Kaiser that approximately 6 years ago he made frequent business trips to Dallas. Stated an acquaintance, name not recalled, employed as chief engineer, helicopter division, Bell Aircraft Corporation, Dallas. Related incident concerning arrest of local stripper, one Candy Bar, on narcotics charge. Group of prominent businessmen known as Upside Down Club provided legal counsel for Bar as a joke. Unknown engineer took Egley to dinner at local club where manager described as Bar's booking agent introduced self. Egley very uncertain, but thinks it was Jack Ruby. No description other than being heavy-set, rough-talking hoodlum type. Egley states he would not be able to identify photo of this individual. Recalled club located second floor in a block across from the Adolphus Hotel. Egley on subsequent trips informed that by engineer that Upside Down Club members no longer assisting with legal defense of stripper, Bar having learned her boss was a card-carrying communist and narcotics distributor. Here we go with another fucking reference to Jack Ruby and communism. Weird, huh? Egley admitted vague and uncertain concerning Dallas, states unknown engineer acquaintance no longer employed or residing Dallas, has no other acquaintances or correspondence capable of identifying him. Claims that Upside Down Club, well known and members would recall incident and furnish details. Dallas attempt to identify and interview members Upside Down Club, read this matter, check appropriate criminal and court records to obtain details concerning arrest of stripper Candy Bar and any connection she might have with Jack Ruby. Weird, right? All right, here we go on to the AGVA. Nick Beta, BETTA, American Guild of Variety Artists, advised S.A. Ray I. Shryock on November 27, 63, that his office contains no records of any entertainers being supplied to any Chicago nightclub, which is or was owned by Jack Ruby. So as per the AGVA, they never had anything to do with the Carousel Club. Let me screenshot this. This screams of being important. All right. Next one, 11/28/63, to the director in SAC Dallas from New York. John Healey, 8 Rachel Avenue, Commack, New York. A New York life insurance company representative advised New York office, FBI, at 7:30 p.m., 11/27 last, on the morning of 11/26/63, he was visiting in New York City and in Lower Manhattan. Approached by a stranger to ask directions as to appropriate subway for uptown trip, and Healey advised that this stranger gave him directions, and they both proceeded to same subway and took subway car going uptown in Manhattan. During brief subway ride, this stranger engaged in general conversation, also related that he, the unknown individual, had left Dallas just in time on Thursday night. 11:21 last, Healey advised the stranger also volunteered that Jack Ruby, at a hotel where this unknown individual was staying in Dallas, had lost in gambling $25,000. Healey also stated that participants in the game, in addition to Ruby, were individuals who this unknown individual described as being in the mafia. Healey advised he learned that this unknown individual worked for the Texas Pure Gas and Oil Corporation, that he had been in Dallas, Texas, regarding the lease and land for his company. Healey advised that he could not recall the name of the hotel, but believed it to be a feminine-type sounding name. Healey stated that after the short ride on the subway, he and the stranger parted company. You know, I gotta say, that's a lot of information to give over to somebody on a short ride on a subway. Healey advised that this unknown individual is described as name unknown, age 55 to 60, white male, 5'9" tall, medium to heavy build, 180 pounds, dark eyes, ruddy complexion, clean shaven, neat business dress, wearing hat. Dallas attempt to identify and locate unknown individual, referred to by Healey through the Texas Pure Gas and Oil Corporation, and develop specific details, info in possession of this unknown individual. So one thing you can tell about the assassination is that, and you'll see this in the general JFK file, which is weirdly only about, 32,000 pages, whereas the Jack Ruby files are 16,000 pages. Like, it's kind of weird, right? But you'll find that there's a lot of people reaching out to the FBI after the assassination and saying, hey, I think I ran into this person. Hey, I think I talked to this person. Hey, I think Jack Ruby was in my fucking store. Or, hey, I think Oswald was here, right? And so over the years, the guys like Harold Weisberg, in particular, did a really good job. And also John Armstrong did a great job of analyzing these various sightings of the various people, particularly Oswald. And that's kind of where you stumble upon all the duplication and the body doubles and all that stuff, which really applies to Jack Ruby too, because of his brother Samuel Ruby, who was at the midnight press conference and the hallway at the police department and all that stuff, while Jack was in Houston and Galveston. So, yeah, wild stuff. All right, moving on. Milwaukee, teletype, November 26, 63. Reference background. Bernard Rosenfeld, 4324 Enfield, Skokie, Illinois. Owner, Minor Music Company, age 36, advised S.A. Eugene I. Sather on 11/26/63 that he had never heard of Jack Ruby, but by that name or any other of his aliases, or knew of no one that could possibly furnish any background information concerning him. Rosenfeld pointed out that he had read the newspapers concerning the assassination of the president, and also noted that Ruby had left Chicago in approximately 1947 or 48. He said that Ruby's departure would have been when he had just turned 20 years of age and was not associating with any individuals who would be acquainted with Ruby. All right, next one, Jack Leon Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald, same headings as usual. This one's dated the 28th. Reference Dallas. Telephone call to Chicago on this date. Mr. Hyman Rubenstein, 1044 West Loyola Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, was interviewed by S.A. George H. Parfit on November 27, 1963, at which time he advised that he had discussed the agent's interview with his sisters and brother Earl Ruby on the afternoon of November 27, 1963. He stated that to the best of his knowledge and belief that his brother and sisters were correct in their summary of the family's residences and of his brother's Jack's adolescent period. He advised that he had read that his brother Jack had been a waiter at some tavern or nightclub in Chicago and stated that he did not recall any such employment. He stated that his brother had sold pennants and souvenirs at Chicago sporting events, but to his knowledge was not a waiter in any tavern. He stated that he could never recall his brother being connected in any way with a nightclub, tavern, or restaurant in the Chicago area, and that he was completely new in this business when he moved to the Dallas, Texas area. He stated that he thought it should be brought to the attention of the FBI that he had communicated with his brother's attorney in Dallas, and that at the exact time of the shooting of the President of the United States, his brother Jack had been in the office of a newspaper. No, he wasn't. The name of which could not recall, quote, raising hell, unquote, with them about a full-page ad which had appeared that day in a Dallas newspaper criticizing the President of the United States. According to Hyman Rubenstein, Jack Ruby, his brother, had said, do you people need money so bad you have to accept advertisements like this? Other Dallas papers refused it, unquote. He stated that this information is all in the hands of his sister Eve in Dallas. Mr. Rubenstein stated that this had been a very trying time for him with the continual questioning by newspapers, radio, television, and law enforcement agencies. He stated that he had tremendous admiration for the FBI and would cooperate at any time, but he hoped that he and his sisters, his brothers, and families could have a quiet Thanksgiving without being contacted about this unfortunate experience. On November 27, 1963, Mrs. Eileen Kaminsky, 6724 North Talman, Chicago, sister of Jack Ruby, telephonically contacted S.A. Parfait, at which time she advised that she had been interviewed on November 27, 1963 by special agents of the Chicago office and withheld information. She said after talking to her brothers and sisters, she wanted to completely cooperate with the FBI and stated that the only thing she had failed to tell these agents was that her mother had been a patient at a mental hospital. She stated that among Jewish people, this is normally not a thing to be discussed, and therefore had withheld it. She advised that all other phases of the interview were correct, as she stated at the time. Interesting commentary. All right. Re-information allegedly developed that an attorney, Hubert Gibson, Oklahoma City, reportedly has volunteered to represent Ruby at the Dallas free of charge. Can't read the handwritten notes. Gibson is a practicing attorney in Oklahoma in his criminal law field and is of good reputation and in good standing with the Oklahoma Bar and American Bar Association. He's described as being fair ability with good reputation. Wilson McCulley, Oklahoma Bar Association, advised Paul Rowland's November 25, 1963 records of the Oklahoma Bar Association show something to be Arthur Hubert Gibson, known by the nickname of Hoot. He was born July 8, 1914 at Grove, Oklahoma, attended public schools there. He was the president of junior and senior high class. Grove attended Northeast Oklahoma. I was just going over some background of this guy who wanted to represent Ruby. I don't see why any of this is relevant. All right, continuing to move on. Can skip all that. All right. Mr. Moore, this is an internal document to C.D. DeLoach, assassination of the president. Guthman of the department called at approximately 3 o'clock. He stated that the Attorney General of the state of Texas was having a press conference this afternoon in Washington, would undoubtedly indicate to the press the state of Texas would convene a board of inquiry into the assassination of the president and the murder of Lee Harvey Oswald. Guthman stated that the department had to prepare to answer a large number of inquiries, which they undoubtedly will receive following the state attorney's general press conference. Guthman then read to me the following proposed release he plans to make. President Johnson has directed the FBI to investigate every lead and every shred of evidence in the assassination of President Kennedy and the shooting of Oswald. A full report on the FBI's findings in the assassination of President Kennedy will be made public. All evidence in the shooting of Oswald will be made available to local authorities in Dallas, who will have responsibility for the trial of Jack Ruby. The Department of Justice, of course, will lend whatever assistance it can to any properly constituted Texas court of inquiry. Guthman asked me what I thought of the press release. I told him I disagreed with the plan to make a release. I mentioned that everything had already been said in the release, which was said last night, and therefore there was no further need to state anything. I told him it would be far better to wait until the FBI had procured all facts in the matter and had submitted the investigative report. I told Guthman that it was particularly bad that he wanted to make the statement, All evidence in the shooting of Oswald will be made available to local authorities in Dallas who will have the responsibility for the trial of Jack Ruby. I mentioned that despite the truthfulness of the statement, it will invite criticism. Many responsible individuals across the nation are pointing to the inefficiency of the Dallas Police Department, and a statement of this nature will merely add fuel to the fire. Guthman stated he would remove the statement at once. However, granted to go ahead and make the remaining statements. I told him I still disagreed that there appeared to be no need whatsoever for any further press releases to be made by the department, and I told him that I personally believe he should never answer inquiries on the matter. He replied that he would think over the objections in question. After talking with the director, I called Guthman back and told him to reiterate my objections in the above regard. Guthman stated he'd given the matter further thought and, in view of FBI objections, would not issue a press release but would merely answer inquiries. I told him I thought this was advisable, blah, blah, blah. That's some internal communications here. All right, next one. To the director, FBI, SAC Dallas. Rebutel, all offices, November 25 instant. Background on November 27 instant. Miss E.B. Ambrose, Veterans Administration, Central Office, Washington, D.C. Advised S.A. Robert F. Milne that master index shows no VA record on Lee Harvey Oswald and known aliases. Ambrose advised Jack Leon Rubenstein, born March 25, 1911, has no VA claim number. Rubenstein's insurance number is 11-146-651, World War II insurance lapse. Note correct. ASN number is 36666-107. All right, reference Atlanta teletype 1126, New Orleans teletype 1127. Background, reference communications set forth information concerning alleged telephone calls made to subject and victim approximately 3 weeks previously by an unknown person using telephone credit card with number ending in 532. Hang on, let me reread that to make sure I got it right. Reference communication set forth information concerning alleged telephone calls made to subject and victim. Subject being Ruby, victim being Oswald. Approximately 3 weeks previously by an unknown person using telephone credit card with number ending in 532. So just from this introductory sentence here, it appears that somebody was making calls to Ruby and Oswald using the same telephone credit card. Is that what I'm reading here? On 11/27/63, redacted advised that telephone credit cards ending in the number 53, or is that an S or a 5? S32, maybe, or 532, one of the two. Designate that the card has been issued in Washington, D.C., corporate area, not including Maryland and Virginia. There are approximately 126,000 cards issued in this area. According to this source, no record of credit calls are maintained at the origin of call, and the charges are forwarded within a few days to the location where the card is issued for appropriate billing. Source stated that in order to locate a specific call without the credit card number or the name of the holder, it would be necessary to review all cards issued in the area. It is noted that information has been developed indicating that the source of the information concerning the alleged calls may not be reliable. Investigation is continuing to resolve this matter, and the Washington field office will hold in abeyance further investigation concerning the credit cards pending receipt of further investigation. All right. Moving on. Reference Milwaukee Tell to Director, November 26 last, and Milwaukee to Chicago, November 27 instant. Reference background. Charles Sacco, SACCO manager, Lee Nordic Music, Inc., 4840 West Diversey, Chicago. Phone number, Pensacola 69700, a jukebox company, advised S.A. Eugene Sather on 11/27/63 he was not acquainted with Jack Ruby or Jack Rubenstein. Sacco said he got out of the Army in 1946 and entered the jukebox business in 1949. According to what he has read in the newspapers, Ruby is approximately 15 years older than he is, and that Ruby left Chicago before Sacco entered the jukebox business. Sacco was unable to furnish any identification of any individual who may have been acquainted with Ruby or have some knowledge of his acquaintances or background. Sacco added that there is no company to his knowledge by the name of ABC Novelty Company on West Diversey Street or in Chicago. All right, reference mental and health background. Reference Dallas telephone call to Chicago November 27 instant. The following investigation was conducted by SAS William M. Parker and Russell R. Gertsch on November 27 instant. Eileen Kaminsky, a.k.a. Mrs. Harold Kaminsky, nee Rubenstein, 6724 North Talman, Chicago, advised she has no knowledge of her brother, Jack Ruby, having any serious physical illness or being under psychiatric care at any time. She's no knowledge of him ever being confined to a hospital, nor does she have any knowledge that he has a metal plate in his head as a result of an injury suffered in the 1920s. Ms. Kaminsky said that she has no knowledge of any psychiatric history or any member in her immediate family. Her mother, Fanny Rubenstein, deceased on April 11, 1944 from heart trouble, and her father, Joseph Rubenstein, deceased on October 27, 1958 from cancer of the bladder. Eva Grant, her sister in Dallas, Texas, underwent a major abdominal surgery for a tumor about a week or so before November 22 last, and is still recuperating. Ms. Kaminsky related that when Jack called her on November 22 last, he was extremely emotional and worked up. He repeated a number of times, my God, did you hear about the president?" He sounded crushed, and it seemed to affect him more due to the fact that he was in Dallas, Texas. Mrs. Kaminsky said she believed Jack called her from the Carousel Club. During the telephone call, he mentioned he might fly to Chicago. According to Ms. Kaminsky, Jack is very sentimental, especially around the holiday season. He has always been a good brother. She said that Jack, to have committed the alleged shooting of Lee Harvey Oswald, he must have become emotionally unstable and temporarily insane. Ms. Kaminsky stated she wished she could help or aid her brother in this time of need. She said perhaps she would testify as to her brother's emotional state on November 22 last when he called if it would help him. Ms. Kaminsky advised that, as best she could recall, the last family residence of the Rubensteins was at 3650 West Lexington, Chicago, in about 1947. She said there has been a complete turnover of the residents of the neighborhood, and no one would recall members of the Rubenstein family having resided there. All right. Well, I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for today. That's 3 shows in a row on Ruby, so perhaps we'll do something different tomorrow. Maybe not. Maybe we'll finish out the week before moving on to something else. But thank you everybody for tuning in, and I'll be back tomorrow.